Welcome to Blended Learning and the structure of discussions for blended learning. The techniques for discussions in an online setting are quite a bit different and need to be well thought out and planned to make the discussion effective. So the idea here is to build a community and trust in your class. This is something you would probably do anyway. And so you want to do this especially if the discussion is taking place online. Since you're meeting in a face-to-face session anyway, because we're looking at blended learning and not just only online learning, you can take time during your face-to-face sessions to build trust and community in your class. So you lay out how you want the students to treat each other. No put-downs, no harsh language, all these kinds of things, which I will go into some detail, but you as teachers already know these issues. You can go over the ways in which you want students to reply to posts. How can they be critical replies and still maintain an atmosphere of trust and support for one another. You can use peer grading for the posts. Haiku allows students to read and post a grade for a reply during a reply that they give to someone else. And so peer grading is a way for you to allow students to read each other's posts and to grade them. And you can explain to students that you will be using these grades for part of their overall grade in the course. This is a strategy of frequent low-stakes grades. You're not giving them huge amounts of points, but you are giving them something for the post, and you're allowing students to grade one another. Now, you can also apply an overall grade that you give them, but this is a strategy which would reduce your workload in terms of overall grades. You give students guidelines for replying and for rubrics and for grading in the form of rubrics. And you model yourself when you set up a discussion. You model personal meaning for the question that you're asking. We're going to use the Community of Inquiry framework throughout the discussion of blended learning, and this is especially important in discussions because discussions need to model social presence. And they establish blended learning because they set a climate for the course in which students will be free to respond or post answers to questions which they have no fear of being put down in any way. This is so important because there can be no real learning, no real seriousness on the part of the student if they feel that their work is not going to be met with support. If they don't get support for what they do, they will not do much. And so social presence models this idea so that students are encouraged, they are valued, their opinions are valued, and they support one another in the process. Social presence enables risk-free expression. It promotes group cohesion. It models and produces sustained and open discourse and leads to an emotional bonding. What we're going to try to do in the discussions or throughout blended learning is look at cognitive presence, which is, if we go back to, you can see cognitive presence is part of the three principles of the community of inquiry and how they overlap one another and how they are all three are necessary. In cognitive presence, you develop a passion for learning. The questions are so important, and the replies of students are valued, and in the sense that they are expressing things that mean something to them. This produces a willingness, not just a willingness, but a passion to take part in the discussion. So the questions need to be of a type that are important in the lives of the students, and we'll take a look at how to do this. And also, the cognitive presence leads to a community that is free of preconceptions and sort of free of prejudices in their thinking. Their willingness to entertain other points of view. The inquiry model uses the idea of essential questions, which questions that don't have an easy answer. You start out with the inquiry model by making a problem statement. There's an exploration phase, an integration phase, and finally a resolution and application phase. Teaching presence is the third principle of the community of inquiry. And what happens in the teaching presence is that the teacher models the kind of replies, the kinds of discussions that you want to have in your class, but as the idea of leadership, because the teacher is responsible for constructing the discussions. And the teacher also models personal meaning, the sharing of personal meaning. You cannot expect students to open up and to entertain a question with any kind of a depth of feeling unless you're willing to do this yourself. Metacognitive awareness, which this leads to, is how other students learn. In other words, you're looking at different approaches to learning, and you're trying to have students develop for themselves the approaches that they learn best with. So, a student may learn best if they discuss things, they reply to things, but not if they just read. They may need visual expressions of the concept, an image to display the concept. They don't do well if it's just text, and others will be able to deal with that, but some won't. And so the metacognitive awareness is an important aspect of blended learning. And here are the three elements of the community of inquiry. And we won't spend a lot of time on this because we'll be looking at it again in a future presentation. Social presence defines how we structure discussions. Discussions have to have an expression of emotion, in the sense that this has a charge for you, that this question leads to engagement. It leads to a topic that is important for you, or becomes important for you, even if it wasn't before. Social presence also leads to self-disclosure. Again, it's important for teachers to model self-disclosure and personal meaning. It's important for a teacher and other students to continue student threads. If a student posts something and makes a significant observation about the question, the thread of that student needs to be continued. And there are ways to do this by assigning students to continue each other's threads. You actually assign a student to reply to at least 2 other posts. This way, the thread is continued. Use messages as sources. So if you're replying to someone, you want to use a quote from their post in your reply. You want to ask questions. What did you mean by this? I didn't quite understand this, and could you elaborate? And so the thread continues. The original poster can then reply to the question. Make complimentary remarks and reply in your replies, and make remarks of appreciation. Use names when applying or replying to posts. Read carefully so you don't get the wrong meaning. Compliment the person. Ask questions politely for clarification. No sarcasm, no slang, and no put-downs. Review before sending it off, before posting it. Do not use any kind of all caps, which is sort of a form of shouting in a discussion post. Share your own personal meaning, and be open-minded and express your opinion with and always identify your opinion when you state it. Essential questions must be relevant to the student. They have to be able to find personal meaning in the question. What experiences have you had that relate to this question? And when we construct a question, it's not just a simple one-sentence statement of a question. It's something like this. Look at the question in terms of your own personal experiences. And questions have to reflect the heart of the discipline being studied. And if you're studying literature, they have to express like a deeper meaning, like the personal meaning, the meaning of life, in the sense of what aspects of life, what characteristics of character, of people's character has this situation, this question, this idea, how has it touched you in a deep sense? The question should possess an emotive force. We've already stated this, and we can't overstate it. And it invites students into real-world disciplines. The prompts focus on person, like you have discussion prompts in a question. So not only do you express the question, but you also put prompts in. And we've stated this earlier, and again, it's a repetition of that. The question has to be complex and open-ended. Discussions are assigned to respond to other points of view. The question is concise. And the question is linked to data that allow for research. Answers may not be found in the data, but the data can allow students to form their own answers to the question. It may lead to new ones asked by students who lead and do new research. And you need to prompt students to always respond to things that are unresolved. Here's an example of rubrics. This will also be posted in the same location as this video, so that you can refer to it, and you go over this with your students so that they understand how many points to give for each type of post. Posts that reflect these ideas get these points and these explanations. This is only one type of grading rubric, and there are others, and you can come up with your own. But if you want to use something to get started, this is a good one. Thank you.